The thing that I most remember, of here thinking back of my family, was that my father's friends all seemed to have nicknames. My own grandfather was known as Scotch Barney, and my father and my grandfather's friends had these strange names. There were people like Phil Earls, Woofy Bananas, Lou Taxi, Sid Taylor, and all their names seemed to reflect either the particular interests that they had, or the jobs that they came from.
Listen, the things that transpired in Eastern Europe that caused the great wave of immigration or immigration from them to different places were things that were physically difficult for the Jews, and all of a sudden they came to, whether it be England or the New World or the States, all of a sudden new options were open to them, and a lot of things were left by the side. To get into society in England or in America, as a Jew, it wasn't always easy. A lot of people wanted to find a job. They couldn't work. They had to work on Saturdays. All of a sudden, the question of keeping the Shabbat for the religious Jews that came from Eastern Europe became a very big problem. Many of them left that because of that. They went to find jobs. Some of them maintained their religious lifestyle at the cost of finding a productive job or a place they could stay for any longer time than a week. Usually they would be hired for a week, and the first Saturday they didn't show up, they would lose their job. So it's happened in a lot of different levels, though. But basically, the new world and the new options, and you wanted to become part of it, oftentimes meant that you lost a certain amount of your identity as a Jew. And there were those who maintained a new type of lifestyle. The different streams of Judaism offered them different ways of expressing their Jewishness without being stuck to a religious type of definition that entailed certain types of behavior. It left a lot more freedom. It's the more liberal Jews, the Reform Jewish movement, the conservative in the States. All those things gave expression, a modern, let's say, American or modern English expression to their Jewishness, and it took on a different, it was more became ethnic rather than a religious way of behavior. Some of them maintained it, some of them totally went away from it altogether. They didn't want any part of their Jewish identity with them. It's changed. It's taken on different roles. The Jews, say, in the 19th century or the 18th century, in Germany and in Lithuania and Poland, that wanted to do well in business, did well in business, but they still maintained the Jewish lifestyle. Who more so, who less so, but it was more defined in religious terms. Today, Jewishness is less defined in religious terms and more as a peoplehood type of thing, where it's ethnic, it's a feeling of belonging, it's a feeling of belonging to people without having anything defined for you how you act. It's something that's more flexible, larger type of definition. The Jewishness is perhaps going more to ethnicity today and less to religious terms. For the most part. I mean, there's still certain sections of the Jewish people that very much maintain their religious beliefs and their ideologies. But for a lot of them, it's become much more an ethnic type of thing. It could be even a gastronomic type of thing. You know, you eat Jewish-style food, kosher-style food. That's one way of expressing your Jewishness. It doesn't mean that you follow the precepts set down in the Bible about what you can eat and can't eat, but it's Jewish style, that type of thing. We have dialogue of between defining Judaism as a culture and cultural expressions of your Judaism rather than classical Jewish things. We have definitely the dialogue between the new directions of Judaism, the new streams. There are also different ways of expressing, be it humanism, be it reform, reconstructionist, conservative, liberal, depending what you call it, progressive. The different terms, but they're basically different expressions of belonging to the Jewish people. We have things called tikkun olam, making the world a better place, becoming involved in social action groups, and making the world a better place, not necessarily just for Jews, but in general, and stating that this cause or this need to do so maybe comes from Jewish sources, but it's not delineated or defined just in Jewish terms. It has to be looked at in a much larger basis. And those things are happening, and we find a lot more social involvement of young Jews, and who may or may not define themselves in the Jewish tribe, so to speak, but they say that it comes from their Jewish sources, their Jewish roots, and they're taking it to the directions they feel comfortable with and they feel that are important today. We look around at the Jewish society today, we see people who make their mark. Either they have amassed great wealth, or they have positions of influence. They're politicians. They might be in the various fields of medicine or law, making their mark and doing more. But I think it's not just necessarily a Jewish sign of success, but I think it's in general societal terms, because they're no longer looked at as just Jews. I think that the society around them also treats them differently, and I think that the switch of that I guess that microscope or the telescope or the magnifying glass upon them is again as people rather than as Jews. So I think that like in any success in any strata of the society, he who does more, amasses more fortune, or has a bigger position of influence, he's succeeded more. We're living in a situation, dynamic situation. It's changing. Will it change and then have a reaction to the change and go back? It's sort of difficult to say in history. It's happened oftentimes where change has been followed by reaction and then new change, and you never completely go back to where you were beforehand. Each change brings a change in the situation. But it's hard to say. Right now, I see a growing rift between the different opinions of people, okay? In the Jewish world especially, the right is going further right, the left is going further left, the religious are further religious, the irreligious or non-religious are going further in the other direction. So there's things that are happening here that makes the differences greater. Will there be something that will bridge those differences? Will there be something that will make them closer? There'll be attempts, for sure. What they'll do exactly, I'm not sure. Are we becoming a varied people, or are we becoming varied peoples? I don't know yet. We're in the midst. It's hard to give a diagnosis of what's going to be or what is happening, because we're living within it and we're all part of it. So it's sort of difficult to look back in time and say, well, this is what happened or this is what will happen. There were small groups that had certain impact. Throughout our history, we've had different groups. You had the Bund at one time. You had all types of different. You had the Jewish socialists. You had different types of movements that had their effects and did or did not do what they intended to do. But it was, I don't know. It wasn't like the thing that determined the course of the Jewish people as a whole. It was specific groups working and leading in different directions. In the end, the overall majority and the times also probably had more impact than ideologies in the end. Today, there's also the same thing. There's a certain reality that exists in the world, and it's a changing reality, and it'll affect us more than we know. We'll have different types of expressions, reactions to that reality. And those people who will accept and those people who won't accept, those people who will try to change it in this direction or that direction, whether they'll be successful or not, or whether any one group will lead in any one direction, it's really, we have to wait to see.